In the final hours of the 1260-year cycle, the prophets speak with one voice.
So let's dive into this. We're here to examine a very specific prophetic framework. It's a story of a great inversion, one that spans millennia and really culminates in our time. And this number, 1260, it's the key. It's a cycle of 1260 years, and it unlocks the entire prophetic timeline. It represents the exact duration given to a counterfeit power, a worldly authority whose reign is just temporary, a mimic of the true kingdom. So where does this all start? Well, it begins with the very first oracle after the flood. It's a prophecy that actually contains two paths, one of true fulfillment and one of inverted fulfillment, a shadow that has walked alongside the light ever since.
This right here, this is the core concept we're exploring, a prophecy that's fulfilled but in a counterfeit way. It describes how the physical inheritance and even the name of the covenant people are seized by political strategy. It's a deception that's been playing out for centuries, all while the true spiritual body is being built by faith.
And this is the foundational scripture. You see, it could mean one of two things. It could mean Gentiles entering the covenant by faith in the Messiah, or it could mean a physical seizure of the tents, a hostile takeover of the name and the land. The prophets testify that both have come to pass.
Now look at this. This table really illustrates the two systems running in parallel. Just notice the origins. One is a divine covenant, straight from the Father. The other, it's a political choice. One has authority from Christ. The other, just as prophesied, from the dragon. And this counterfeit path, it leads to a temporary kingdom and a mark of control, which is a direct inversion of the eternal kingdom and the seal of God.
Okay, so let's move to the ultimate authority and see how this all builds, because it was Jesus himself who warned most directly of this great deception.
And his primary warning, the thing he repeated again and again, was against deception. False Christs and false prophets who would come in his name, who would mimic the real thing with signs and wonders so convincing they would challenge even the very elect.
He drew this incredibly stark line, and it wasn't based on bloodline, not at all. It was about spiritual fatherhood. It was a line between those who followed him, bearing the fruit of the Spirit, and those who claimed a covenant identity while actually following the lusts of their father, the devil.
His words to those who were just claiming lineage but had no faith, they were direct, they were absolute. He looked right past the robes and the titles, straight to the heart, to the spiritual source.
And get this, twice in Revelation from his throne in glory, Jesus identifies this specific counterfeit group. He calls their claim blasphemy, and their assembly, he calls it a synagogue of Satan. That is a warning that echoes to the very end of the age. But Jesus also provides a sign to watch for, the parable of the fig tree. He said that when it puts forth its leaves, redemption is near. And within this prophetic framework, the reestablishment of a physical state in 1948 is seen as this very sign, beginning a final generation that would witness the close of that 1260-year cycle.
The transfer of the vineyard, it was prophesied. And so the test, the real proof, is the fruit. The kingdom wouldn't belong to those who just possessed the land or had the name, but to a nation, a people who were actually bringing forth the fruits of the Spirit.
But here's the thing, Jesus wasn't alone in this. The other prophets, they form a chorus testifying to the very same inversion across the ages, and each one adds a new layer to the warning.
It's like they each described a different facet of the same spiritual decay. Daniel, he gave us the timing of this counterfeit dominion. Isaiah warned of the spiritual condition, how the faithful city would fall. Jeremiah declared the legal consequence, a bill of divorce. And Hosea, he prophesied the ultimate outcome, a physical return to the land, but not a spiritual return to God. It was Daniel who provided the exact timing for this period of counterfeit authority. A time, times, and the dividing of time, 1260 prophetic years. Then you have Zechariah, who warned of a worthless idol shepherd. And the contrast couldn't be clear. This isn't a true shepherd who lays down his life for the sheep. No, this is one who abandons the flock, one whose power, his arm, withers, and whose spiritual sight, his right eye, is completely darkened. And Ezekiel, he described the endgame. He said the counterfeit system would actually achieve a state of dwelling safely, a kind of false peace in the land, but that it would be followed by a final fire, a judgment that falls upon Magog, the very Japhethic line where this whole inversion began. It's a perfect fractal conclusion.
And finally, the Apostle Paul provided the one crucial distinction that clarifies everything. A physical lineage does not guarantee spiritual reality, for they are not all Israel which are of Israel.
So when you bring all of these voices together, you realize they're not a collection of disparate warnings. Not at all. They are a single, unified message, a cord of testimony that cannot be broken.
I mean, just look at how these individual threads weave into one undeniable tapestry of warning. From Jesus' caution against false prophets, to Daniel's timeline, to Isaiah's harlot city, all the way to Paul's final clarification, they all point to the exact same prophesied reality.
The prophetic case is closed. The inversion has played out precisely according to the script written thousands of years ago. The cycle is now complete.
And this leaves us with one final thought. After all these warnings, after laying out the entire plan of deception, what was the final instruction from the ultimate authority? What are we supposed to do?
He told them to look up, not to fear, not to despair, but to look up and lift up their heads. Because these very signs of deception and inversion, they are the final confirmation that our true redemption is drawing near.